Upon arriving at Parima 2, we're greeted by Jiro Sugiyama, the head of Paradiso Security, with an unusual request. There seems to be something wrong with the large, unidentified ship in orbit.
I apologize for coming over this emergency channel, but we are in need of assistance concerning the large ship in orbit, and we value discretion in this matter. If you are willing and able, please see me as soon as possible at the main security office in Paradiso.
Being of a generally helpful disposition in this run, and in the need for some quick cash, I decided to investigate the planet resort of Paradiso, maybe get some nice rewards in the process. Traveling to the security office, we can speak with Chief Sugiyama and get a briefing on what's going on around here.
Welcome to Paradiso. Jiro Sugiyama at your service. Do you have a security concern, or is there something else I can help you with?
I'm here about the distress call you sent.
Ah, yes, of course. I'm glad you came. As you can imagine, we're in a bit of a predicament. Under normal circumstances, we would not enlist outside help in this manner. But this is a matter we can't afford to worry our guests about. As such, we need to handle this discreetly. Failure on your part to do so could have severe consequences. So, before we proceed, can you swear not to discuss this with anyone else unless explicitly directed to do so?
Understood. I swear it. Let me know what you need me to do.
Great. I appreciate it. Not too long ago, a strange and enormous ship appeared in Parima space. It is now locked in orbit around our planet. So far, it doesn't seem to be hostile, but any attempts to communicate with it have been in vain, so we're unsure of the ship's intentions.
What kind of ship is it? Any idea who it belongs to?
It bears no discernible markings or allegiances to any manufacturers we're aware of. I'm hoping that doesn't mean we're dealing with some sort of new deep space threat.
They didn't respond to communications.
Not quite. It took some time, but we received a transmission. It was all, pardon the phrasing, it sounded almost alien, like nothing anyone's heard before. Clicks, distorted groans, buzzing, really disturbing sounds. Now, one of our engineers says it could just be some busted comm equipment or incompatible signals, but we're not sure. So far, no one's disembarked from the ship, no landing craft, nothing. We don't have the staff or ships to spare, otherwise we'd dock with it and attempt to board.
What do you think we're dealing with?
Can't say for sure. Looks worn, but not cobbled together like a Crimson Fleet junker. Others have been saying it's some new Varun design, a gigantic battleship with hidden armaments preparing for assault, but that doesn't check out either. There's also been talk about non-human sentient life. The comms data we received might support that, but humanity's spread far and wide and no one's ever encountered anything like that. Still, first contact. Could you imagine?
Seems like a delicate situation.
It is. Whatever's going on, we need to approach this with care. First, see if you have more luck communicating with them. If not, you may have to try boarding. Whatever you do, it's important to remember to seek diplomacy with who or whatever's on board. As soon as you have any more information, report to Oliver Campbell. He's the CEO of Paradiso. All formal decisions will need to go through him, and he'll have your pay. Good luck.
Oh boy. So we've got a massive ship of unknown origin blocking the path to Paradiso for their guests. And because this is the most luxurious resort in the universe, they're worried that the presence of this ship will cause a panic, or worse, a loss in profits. Rightly so, too, as it could just be a broken comm system. Or perhaps, it's the first sign of intelligent alien life that humans have encountered. It's a little far-fetched for me, but Sugiyama seems to think it's at least a possibility. There's no point in speculating at this point, so the only thing to do now is try to make contact with that ship. Before going though, we'll pick up a first edition copy of Dragon Star Force Volume 1 from the general store within Paradiso. This is a quest item for another quest, which is our character's original reason for traveling here in the first place. I get the feeling we won't be handing this in anytime soon. Traveling to Parima's orbit, we can hail the unidentified ship that is causing so much concern. An absolutely horrible noise comes through our comms, and no matter what we say to them, we're just met with radio static and the occasional whir, beep, and gurgle. Maybe this really is aliens like Sugiyama suggested. The presence of alien life won't stop Jack Maverick from getting to the bottom of this, though. So boarding the ship is the only course of action that remains.
Ship is now docked. Perfect. Didn't even smudge the paint.
Once on the ship, we raise our guns, sneaking as we move forward, keeping an eye out for anything suspicious. The green bar in the stealth meter lets me know that, at least for now, entities around me aren't hostile. Then, all of a sudden...
Stay alert. Weapons at the ready.
Remain calm. There's no reason to suspect whatever it is hostile.
I agree with the captain. Now is the time for diplomacy.
Well, it certainly doesn't look or sound like aliens. Drat. Guess I'm not getting a Nobel Peace Prize in this playthrough. Let's meet with these people and see what's going on here, and why they aren't answering anyone's hails.
You're... human?
Yes, I'm human. Wait, what are you?
Oh, we're human. From the planet Earth in the Sol system.
Okay, so definitely not aliens. Of course I'm human. I take it you were expecting something else.
It's just that we weren't expecting to find life, let alone human life out here. We thought we were the only ones to leave Earth.
You thought you were the only ones? I am afraid you have been unaware of a great many things.
Perhaps we should greet our guests.
Of course. Manners. I'm Captain Diana Brackenridge. This is Security Officer Bomani Reader. And this is Dr. Mabuti da Costa, one of our elders.
A pleasure to meet you.
You've come aboard the Earth colony ship Constant. Generations ago, we set forth from the planet Earth with the mission of colonizing a new habitable world, in the spirit of our ancestors nearly a millennium ago.
I'm Jack Maverick, and I'm here to help.
I see. As you may have presumed, we're in a bit of a bind. Our ship has finally completed its near 200-year journey from Earth, only to find our new home seemingly colonized by... well, we don't know. Communications haven't been successful, so your arrival is fortuitous. Perhaps you'd be willing to act as a middle person between ourselves and... the others.
How did you all survive for 200 years?
Well, the short answer is, we didn't. It's a generation ship, which is to say that most of us lived long, happy lives on board and passed our mission down to our children. It was never intended that the original crew would make it to our destination. The goal was always the preservation of the human race, above all else. Though, it would seem that was perhaps a bit presumptuous.
Incredible. 200 years? How did it take you so long to get here?
Ah, your question confirms one of our recent theories. It would seem that some form of faster-than-light travel or space-bending technology was invented during our long journey. That would explain why we would find people this far out into space. I guess technology leapfrogged us at some point. Interesting. I can only imagine that our predecessors didn't believe the technology would ever work, and so they made the decision to leave when they did.
I'd love to know more. But maybe we should get away from this airlock first.
Oh yes, of course. Where are my manners? Now then, please follow me. There's much to discuss first. We'll speak more on the matter once we reach the bridge. Dr. DaCosta, you may return to your quarters if you wish.
Thank you, Captain.
I will follow you to the bridge, ma'am. For security purposes.
I do not believe we have need to fear our guest, but I'll allow it if you insist.
Careful waving that fancy gun around.
Welcome to the Earth colony ship Constant.
We can then follow the captain to the bridge as she recounts a short summary of their history, though I was far too distracted with looting to pay much attention. Once we arrive at the bridge, though, we can press the captain for more information.
Is my number one
No matter the
priority.
outcome, I won't let my crew down.
How's your crew holding up with all this?
A bit frazzled, as you can imagine. People are anxious about discovering that we're not alone, and also worried about what will come to pass. While we hope we can work out a deal with the people on the surface, they seem reluctant to reach out, so there's no telling what will come of that. I do know that we can't afford to stay here in orbit forever. The ship was built to sustain us for many years with backup provisions just in case, but even that will come to an end eventually.
Sounds like you could use some help with your situation here.
Well, as I mentioned, we've been unsuccessful in communications with anyone up until you arrived, though not for lack of trying. But since you're asking, maybe you'd be willing to be a sort of diplomat between us and them as we attempt to resolve our situation. Does that sound agreeable to you?
What's wrong with your communication system?
We suspect that our equipment is woefully obsolete compared to whatever you all have now. In all honesty, we never expected to need to communicate with anyone, so our comms aren't particularly robust. That limits our options. We even attempted communicating with lights and sounds, something we saw in an old movie, but I don't believe they picked up on it. If anything, it may have inadvertently alarmed them.
The people in Paradiso want the same. I'll help.
Ah, so they have a name. Paradiso. And it sounds promising that they sent you here to speak with us. You see, we intended to settle here, but we assumed that they intend to defend their claim given their presence here. We'd like you to go speak to them on our behalf and help us negotiate a solution, preferably one that favors us.
So, just to recap, these folks traveled for nearly 200 years across the universe to find a planet they identified as suitable for living, and are now trying to make claim to the planet that has already been settled by humans many years ago. Now this is definitely a predicament. Based off our conversations with Sugiyama already, their claim is probably not valid anymore, and they certainly don't have the funds available to hire space lawyers to defend their 200-year-old claim. They seem intent on living here, though, and will certainly try to help them, but diplomacy may require compromise.
Yes, of course. But we need to start from a firm position and state our goal. If need be, we can compromise, work out a mutually beneficial deal or some such, but initially I'd like you to be firm with them and convince them to leave the planet to us. Let me know how they respond, and we'll go from there.
Okay, slow down there. Them leaving is not going to be an option. They might not have called dibs 200 years ago, but we're not uprooting the colony just for you to have the entire planet. Besides, Prima 2 is huge. Why not just settle on the other side of it, away from the others?
We thought about it, but it simply won't do. I need to think about the distant future of our people. Sure, our first settlement may be small, but our predecessors dreamt of our new civilization spreading across the globe. That will be difficult if someone else plans to do the same. While we're not completely close to the idea of sharing, it's much easier if we have complete domain over this world.
Okay. But no promises I'll be able to convince them.
Now, it makes little sense to give up before you try. Thank you, and good luck.
And so our conversation with the captain ends, with her giving us a nearly impossible task. We can go around and chat with a number of individuals on the ship before leaving, and also take in some unique aspects of this vessel, not seen in any other ship. For starters, the captain's office has what I believe to be the only copy of Rupert Breckenridge's last autobiography, something that has otherwise been lost to time outside the ECS Constant's time capsule of a starship. In this short excerpt, Rupert talks about his growing fear of an extinction-level event that is set to wipe out humanity, which kickstarted his Earth colony ship initiative, a push for space colony and galactic colonialism devoid of the interests of politicians. The ECS Constant is, based off the information so far, the first and last Earth colony ship, whose mission was to travel to what he refers to as our new Garden of Eden, likely what is now known as Prima 2. Sadly, there is no date in this excerpt, though it does note that this process of building the ECS Constant occurred in the 22nd century, which is around the time that the Grav drive technology was completed. We also know from another set of missions that Grav drive technology research began in 2139, and researchers had it working in 2140. This means that the Constant likely left Earth one lifetime before Grav technology was completed. Moving further into the captain's quarters are floor-to-ceiling portraits of each captain that has come before the other, all Breckenridges. But interestingly, Rupert is not on the wall. Presumably, Boris was his son, and the lineage went from there. That makes 6 captains, including the current, meaning each captain served for about 50 years. I'd imagine that Rupert Breckenridge was far too old to captain the ship at the time of its launch, and decided that their abilities would be better used to developing the next ECS starship. It's unknown as to whether Rupert lived long enough to see the development of Grav drive technology, but I truly hope he didn't. If he did, He'd live the remainder of his lifetime thinking of the fates of those few hundred souls on the ECS Constant, doomed to be technologically eclipsed before they were even halfway to their destination. Traveling around the ship, we can find out a bit more about the culture that was imposed on these residents of the generational ship, and to be quite frank, it's not too bright. We start our tour in the classroom, where we can see a number of antique computers. They're worth a pretty penny, and weigh about as much as the real thing. We can then turn our attention to Julia Yang, the chief historian of the ship.
Hello there. Given that I don't know you, you must be this visitor I've been hearing so much about. I'm Julia, the Constant's chief historian. It's nice to meet you on this momentous occasion.
Can you tell us more about what it means to be chief historian?
If you ask around, people will either tell you my job is absolutely critical to the mission, or I just hang out, read, and watch movies. There's more to it than that. Officially, I'm assigned to the role of chief historian. Generations ago, it used to be lawkeeper of humanity, but that seemed a bit too lofty. While I don't think my job is as important as captain, engineering officer, or cultivation manager, it's still vital to our mission.
Can you tell us more about the duties of the chief historian?
I run the educational programs aboard the ship for all the children and any adults who are looking to learn about Earth history. We try to have group sessions some evenings where we read old Earth literature, watch old films, listen to music, and the like. So yes, I hang out with children and watch movies, but it's more involved than that. We historians are charged with keeping Earth culture alive, so that we never forget where we came from.
Wait, you were assigned the role?
Of course. Everyone was assigned their roles here. We don't choose our roles, since there are only so many of us, and every job is critical. Someone has to prove themselves either exceptionally bad at their job, or exceptionally good at another, in order to be moved. But that rarely happens.
Do you enjoy what you do?
I do. But sometimes it's frustrating to convince some people that my job is important, since it's not directly related to our continued survival. There was a time where I thought my sister was the lucky one, running the hydroponics farm and being responsible for feeding everyone on board. But I grew to like my work. And working with children is nice. Especially since I'll never have any of my own.
Sorry if this is too personal, but, why can't you have children?
It's okay. I don't mind you asking. I'm actually proud of my choice. It's a great honor to give up one's ability to have a family so that others may. As you can imagine, a population limit is a necessity on board a colony ship. I made my choice long ago to give others the chance to have a larger family should they wish. Though, I suppose I don't need to worry about that now. Maybe it's time to consider it.
That's definitely something that, ironically, history tends to overlook. A ship with a limited number of resources can only have so many people. Too many children could lead to dangerous resource shortages, and, in this case, the potential end of the human civilization. Julia here is one of many that has been voluntold to stay childless for the sake of humanity. A difficult decision, but a necessity in a situation like this. There's still more that Julia is able to tell us about the Constant. For example, why is the ship called the ECS Constant?
ECS stands for Earth Colony Ship. We wanted a fairly inclusive name to represent the planet, and not a particular nation of origin. There was an old colony ship that sailed across the oceans of Earth from a country called England to settle on a new continent. It was called either the Susan or Sarah Constant. No one seems to know for sure, so ours was shortened to just Constant. Ironically enough, that ship also reached what they thought was new land, and found it populated when they arrived. As chief historian, I can tell you a lot, probably. What do you want to know?
How long have you been traveling?
Well, we launched Tuesday, September 27th, 2140. So, about 190 years now. Would have been longer, but it turns out we have an ace navigator who saved us some time with some tricky maneuvers.
Wait a minute. So the ECS Constant didn't actually depart within 25 years of Grav technology being created. It left within 6 months of the first publicly successful test. And the ship was being built at the exact same time as the ultra-top secret Grav Drive projects on the moon. We know that the last log left by the Grav Drive researchers was dated December 15th, 2140. So the test must have been only weeks after that. If only someone had told Rupert that the tech was coming and they didn't have to leave. The Constant could have been outfitted with a Grav Drive 190 years ago. They lost 190 years in their claim to their Garden of Eden because they couldn't wait a single month. Talk about a terrible return on investment for the people that funded this project. That also means that Rupert Breckenridge likely did survive to see Grav technology being completed, and could only watch as the ECS Constant left on their centuries-long journey through the blackest sea. We've still got one more question to ask Julia. Who were the original crew of the Constant?
We're the descendants of wealthy elites, intellectuals, artists, scientists, and others who left Earth in 2040 to spread humanity to the stars. The thinking was that Earth's days were numbered for a variety of reasons. Our finder, Rupert Breckenridge, had the foresight to plan for the worst. Thus, he constructed this colony ship to settle what seemed like the most habitable planet we could find, knowing full well it would take generations to reach. We suspected that we may have been the only ones to leave Earth, given that no one else seemed to have the same idea. I'm glad we appear to be wrong.
So it was rich folks hedging their bets and not being told about the Grav Drive technology that boarded the Constant. I suppose that makes sense. A ship of this size and caliber would require a large amount of cash to build, so those first passengers probably secured their spots with financial donations. Moving to the crew quarters, we can talk to Abe, who is a little more...
Hello?
eccentric. While he doesn't offer much in the way of information, he's one of my favorite people on the ship. And the voice acting is great too.
Oh, hi! Hello! You're the alien, person that came from out there. In space, that we weren't expecting at all. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. Can we start this over?
I won't include all of his conversations here, but here's one of my favorite voice lines of his.
I'm fine. I will be. It's just my nerves acting up. This has just gotten everyone so stressed, and since I'm here to help people deal with problems like that, it piles on me. Abe, I'm scared. Abe, what if we can't get down to the surface? Abe, what are we gonna do? And so on and so forth. I've never had to deal with so much anxiety before, and I'm a pretty anxious guy to begin with. Just ask my husband.
We can also interact with his husband Daisuke while exploring the ship, but he's much less interesting to talk to, so we'll skip that interaction. Before we leave though, let's stop by one more point of interest on the ship. The hospital. Or as close to a hospital as you can get around here. There we meet Lorelei, who reveals yet another dark truth about living on the Constant.
I know everyone on this ship.
As much fun as it would be to make Lorelei think she's losing it, I don't want to close off future dialogue because I was malicious. So I'll just tell her I'm the visitor from outside the ship.
Oh my. Yes, of course. Sorry, I was with a difficult patient when the announcement came through. But now I remember. They sent my husband, Mabuti, to greet you. It's quite fortunate that you arrived when you did, for Mabuti's sake. Hopefully you can help resolve our current predicament.
For Mabuti's sake? It didn't seem like anything was wrong with him.
There isn't. At least not in the medical sense. Since he was one of the eldest on board, he was ready to volunteer for termination. Thankfully, since you've arrived, that no longer seems necessary.
Termination? You mean...
It means that he was going to volunteer his own life for the sake of the others on this ship, due to limited spaces and supplies. Like the others, his life would then be honored with special distinction and recorded for history. Rarely we had to make difficult choices when no one would volunteer. But Mabuti, he's too generous to let that happen.
Oh dear. So the ECS Constant regularly terminates their living members when their population gets beyond the capacity of the ship, and Mabuti doesn't want anyone else to lose their loved ones. That's terrible, but I understand it's necessary for the greater good on a ship like this.
I know you think it's not quite right, but thank you for understanding. With luck, it won't come to it, I hope.
I understand that some kinds of sacrifices must be made for the sake of society, but perhaps not in quite so literal a sense.
Unfortunately, we can't get much else out of this dialogue. This voice dialogue is bugged for some reason, and switches to the focus of Vendrasia, but we can explore the other options just by talking to Lorelei again. What happens if the population grows too much?
We try our best to avoid that through careful family planning. Rarely we run into situations where things do not go according to plan. And then we must adjust and make difficult decisions concerning our community and resources. We never do anything without careful consideration. But at the end of the day, we need to do what is best for the ship, so as not to put everyone in jeopardy.
Can I assume you're the chief medical officer for the Constant?
Indeed. There aren't many doctors on board. In addition to regular checkups, I perform surgeries, obstetrics, and other medical procedures. I also help train the next generation of doctors. After all, someone must. It's demanding work.
And just to test the bug again, I tried clicking the same voice line we already viewed, and was hit with an unexpected jump scare.
As one of the elders.
Termination. You mean...
And immediate screenshot. Anyways, returning to the conversation, we see, once again, it improperly cycles the dialogue back to Vendrasia, so we can't continue this line of questioning any further.
Back to it then.
After meeting with everyone, it's time to depart and return to Paradiso to see what can be done for these colonists. Hopefully, the people of Paradiso are considerate of the unfortunate events that occurred to these folks centuries ago. We can now go up to the executive floor to discuss what will be done with the passengers on the Constant. On the executive floor, we can turn to the left and are then led into the boardroom to discuss the issue with the C-suite executives. Dealing with these kinds of folks calls for some persuasion-enhancing drugs. Hello, Oliver. I understand you're the man I need to talk to about the strange ship in orbit.
I am. And you must be the diplomat Jiro told me about. Welcome, welcome. Normally I'd offer you an all-inclusive stay at our resort before we spoke. But given the circumstances, I'm gonna cut to the chase. We've got our friends, the aliens, up there causing all sorts of problems for our resort. You like that? The marketing team came up with it. The thought is, if we can't get rid of them, it might actually attract more tourism. Come see the aliens!
Normally, I dig into all of these lovely topics of conversation, but I get the feeling these drugs won't last long enough if I do. Let's just point out that they're despicable sociopaths and move forward from there.
Despicable? Hardly. Just a backup plan in case we can't get them to leave. But you're right, no one's gonna buy aliens. Remind me to fire the marketing team. So, tell me, what's the actual deal with this massive eyesore of a ship, besides scaring people away?
It's a generation ship full of colonists from Earth. Here after a 200-year journey.
Well, that's something. Shame we can't just tell them kindly to bugger off. Something tells me that's not going to work. Now, tell me, what are we going to do about it? Give me some proposals, people. I need something to work with here.
We could offer to resettle them here. There's more than enough space.
They could stay here, temporarily, but it'll cost them. Quite a bit, too. They'd need to work off all their debts before being allowed to leave.
Maybe not. What if we help them get out of here? Outfit their ship with a grav drive so they can find a new home. We could even lend our engineers to help and give their captain an updated star map. What do you think?
Sounds costly. We can't absorb that cost, and it's unlikely they even have compatible currency, let alone enough for the transaction. Someone else would have to foot the bill.
Oh, I swear this would be a lot easier if they ceased to exist entirely. Anyway, Seema's got the right idea. Either works for me. Just tell me what you want to do.
Wow. I'm glad I skipped the previous dialogue lines. These people are horrible. Indentured servitude, white-collar murder, and they aren't willing to provide a single credit to help a ship with technology so outdated it belongs in a museum. And by the way, ceased to exist?
I'm not suggesting anything, other than it would make our lives so much easier if that ship ceased existing. Make of that what you will.
So they can live here, but they'd be indentured servants.
Oh, I didn't say that specifically. This would be a mutual contract for room and board in exchange for services rendered. Of course, there's no telling how long this arrangement will last, given the substantial costs we'd need to take on in order to accommodate them here, including their continued room and board. But this may save the resort on operating costs in the long term, as we'd be able to let go of some of our current paid staff.
Oh yes, of course, reduced staff costs. Why can't they just settle on the other side of the planet or something?
We own this planet, they don't. Here at Paradiso, we don't like leaving things to chance. Who knows what these people will do with their land? Imagine the landscaping disasters they may come up with, and how that might mar the satellite imagery of the planet in our brochures. No, much better to assimilate them into our culture if they come here to live, rather than leave it to chance.
These are human beings, and you're worried about landscaping? That's absurd.
Well, absurd or not, that's our official stance. I make the decisions that are best for our entire group. You don't.
Enough of this. I think I've made up my mind.
And which proposal will you be taking to the good captain? I assume there's a captain?
What if, after all this, they continue to insist their claim to this planet predates yours?
They'd be hard-pressed to defend their claim in any courts. Our charter goes back years. It was registered with both the UC and Freestar Collective, per the Centaurus Proclamation. We may be outside the settled systems, but that charter's official as can be. I'm sorry, but you're going to need to be the one to break the news to them that they need to make a compromise or leave.
Well, alright. I think we figured out that these folks are corporate scumbags. I'll just buy the Grav drive and convince them to settle elsewhere.
Ah, good on you. You want to see a man named Benny St. James over at Hope Tech. He's the best in the business. If anyone can retrofit a 200-year-old ship with a modern Grav drive, it'd be him. We'll coordinate our engineering team with his when you return, though you may have to help the Constant engineers prepare for it on their end. Good luck.
They deserve a renewed chance to decide their own fates. That is the right thing to do.
Right. On behalf of the Paradiso group, we appreciate your help.
These guys are lucky I'm playing a good character, or else they might have a few new piercings. Oh well, let's just get these poor colonists out of Paradiso's space so they can live a good life. A quick jump to Hope Tech is next on the list, and we can meet with Bennu and ask for his help getting that old rust bucket a new lease on life.
Hope Tech needs brave new innovations. We're so? Sure, that sounds like me. What can I do for you? I'm a little busy, but I think I could spare some time.
Oliver Campbell sent me. I'm here about a grav drive for an old colony ship.
Oh, you should have just said that. Of course I can help you. Oliver sent a courier ahead of you. I did some research on ships from that era, and I have a decent idea what we're dealing with. So grav drives didn't really take off until after the ship was built. But I've got access to an ancient grav drive that looks like it could be compatible. With some minor adjustments. It's in good shape, too. Parts not cheap, though. Neither is the labor. Just pay the combined cost of parts and labor, and it's yours.
40,000 credits? Mate, I'm only level 15. I can barely afford a gun, let alone an antique grav drive. So let's see how this goes. Surely the profit you'd make doesn't compare to the freedom you'd be giving these people.
As much as I'd love to, I just don't know if I can afford to take a loss on this. Again, I'm sorry.
You've had that old part for how long? And no one has yet offered to buy it?
Perhaps not. But I don't want to just settle for an offer far below its value. This part is incredibly difficult to come by.
Oh boy. For all the marbles.
That's something I hadn't considered. I could be famous, and with that comes more lucrative contracts. Tell you what, sounds like this is for a good cause. While I can't give you the part for free, I won't charge you for the work.
Phew. That was close. But 25,000 credits is still more than I have.
Oh. Doesn't look like you have enough credits. It's hard to find one of these parts around anymore. So I'm going to need the credits up front. Come back when you've got enough. I'll still be here.
As much as I don't like getting fleeced for those 25,000 credits by this guy, we did talk him down nearly 40%. Without the funds to move forward, though, this means I'm gonna go have to complete a lucrative quest line or two for the Crimson Fleet before we have the funds. I won't go into that here, but if you're interested in that story, make sure to hit all those buttons below the video player and comment to let me know if you're interested in seeing the full storyline of those bloodthirsty, credit-craving Crimson Fleet.
Way to make a mess in front of my new rook!
For now, we'll just magically acquire the funds and go back to Hope Tech.
You're done right it is. I'll get to work on it right away. I recommend you go back to the ship and ask the captain to prepare for its retrofit. Standard stuff. I'm sure they have an engineer on board to help. We'll send the part along when it's ready and install it with the help of Oliver's people. Pleasure working with you.
And finally, we're just moments away from this story ending. Let's return to the Constant and head to engineering, where we'll talk to Amin Kazemi.
I can't tell you how many times I've had to make do with inelegant solutions to complex technical problems. I was hoping to talk to our visitor from outer space, and here you are! Welcome, welcome! I have a million burning questions, but I won't overwhelm you. There will be plenty of time for that later. Please, indulge me just a couple. How did you do it? Did humanity finally discover faster-than-light travel and eclipse our poor old ship?
We have tech called a Grav drive that allows a ship to bend space.
I knew it. It's incredible! I read about this technology in our archives from Earth, but it was only theoretical back then. Amazing! I'll have to learn more. Oh, I've got so many questions, but I'm being rude. I haven't even given you my name. Chief Engineer Kazemi, but you can call me Amin. And, I might add, I'm one of the reasons we're still floating out here today.
I'm Jack Maverick. There's something else I need to talk to you about, Amin.
Yes, of course. Anything for my new friend.
If your predecessors knew about Grav drives, why didn't they wait for it instead of setting out?
Great question. I do not know for sure, but I can venture a guess. All of the reading I've done on the matter suggests that at the time, there was uncertainty that the technology would ever work, or if it did, that it would work at the scale we needed. So, I trust they made the decision to strike out when they did, fully believing it was the only way.
You said you had questions for me?
Yes! So many! Does everyone have their own spaceships like you? Do people only live on naturally habitable planets, or did they learn to terraform? Are we in contact with alien species? I have so many more, but I don't want to take up all your time.
Oh boy, that was a lot. In reverse order, no sentient life as far as we can tell, but plenty of diverse living creatures, no terraforming, we use hab units and suits, and no, not everyone has ships, but many people do.
Disappointing, but not unexpected. When you showed up, I tried to tell the others about the Fermi paradox. I suggested that the most likely explanation for you was that humanity had developed faster, more advanced technology and had leapfrogged us. Seems I was right. I'm not surprised. The amount of energy it would take to terraform an entire planet seems improbable. I can assume these types of colonies are strictly for mining and gathering rare resources, since there are nearly limitless habitable planets to choose from out there. Haha! I knew it! Incredible! Amazing! Simply amazing! In our ancestors' time, only the very wealthy could afford to build ships. Even this ship was only possible by our families pulling together nearly all of their financial resources.
That's all the question and answer time I have for now.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with me. I can have a bit of a big personality, I'm told. So let me know if I ever get on your nerves. See you!
Wait, whoa, get back here. Wait, where are you going? Oh, of course, into the corner, where chief engineers stand.
What Grav drive? Just joking with you. The Paradiso engineers filled me in. Okay, let's see what we need to do. All right. This will be fun. And hopefully there will be no explosions in the process. I have just received word that the drive is here. Ready to get to work?
Sorry, did you say something about explosions?
Oh, don't worry about that. Just a little engineering humor. We've kept this ship going with minimal incidents this long. I'm not about to let anything happen to it now. But, to be clear, what we're doing is very dangerous, and we should be prepared for anything.
You need my help?
Yes, of course I need your help. My team needs to stay on top of their daily maintenance, and I need to make my own preparations for this gravity drive you brought us. Your help is going to be vital to this procedure. And have no worries, it'll be easy. I'll guide you through the process.
Ready as can be.
Great, great, great! There are 3 preparations I need you to help me make while I set things up on my end. First thing I need you to do is reroute the power from the port turbo pump to the auxiliary cryogenic radiator. Then, turn the plasma runoff inhibitor function to 5%. Last, you'll need to decouple the magnetic flange pipe enclosures from the auxiliary module assembly. Got it? Let's hop to it!
Oh boy. I'm not going to tell you how many tries this took me, but it was more than one. They really like to make this process confusing, unless you're taking notes. Anyways, once you get the 3 things done, you can talk to Captain Brackenridge again.
Careful waving that fancy gun around.
Well, well, it would appear we have the means to go nearly anywhere now, thanks to you. The engineers even upgraded our communications equipment so we can speak with passing ships. Turns out it was a pretty easy fix. Thank you again for all you've done.
Where will you go now?
We don't yet know, but we did receive a star map from the Paradiso engineers. I suppose we'll just chart a course for other suitable habitable worlds until we find one that matches the quality of Paradiso. Purima 2 here.
No problem at all. I'm 25,000 credits poorer, but I'm glad it all worked out.
Without you, we'd most likely be stuck. But you went above and beyond. I'll make sure people tell tales of your generosity for as long as our society lives. I don't know if we can ever fully repay you. Thank you again.
You're lucky we're under orders not to escort you right off.
And so ends the story of the ECS Constant. Or at least so far. After traveling for 200 years through the endless black of space, praying for the Garden of Eden to be where they expected it to be, fighting off corporate sociopaths that rather enslave them than empower them, and rewarding us with a whole boatload of antique items, they're finally on their way to a new life that isn't a metal tube in the vacuum of space. While the items they give you are kind of odd, leveling up your commerce skill to maximum makes these very valuable items, and you can easily score yourself more than 25,000 credits if you sell them all. So what's next for the ECS Constant? Well, currently nobody knows. You see, once you finish the quest indicator is bugged and never updates to the new location of the ECS Constant. Presumably, this will be fixed in the future, but once the ship leaves Purima 2, it's lost forever. Maybe Bethesda will include this as an extended storyline in the future expansions? If so, I'll put a card in the top corner of this video to that update video. But for now, we can only hope that the ECS Constant's passengers have finished their 190-year pilgrimage, and are integrating into the new universe that they just stepped back into. And that is where our story ends for today too. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on your way out. And let me know if you want any other Starfield lore investigated further. Past that, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
Hand it over. That's mine. I'll be taking that.
That's me.